Welcome to Bryer's Music Showcase. I am Bryer and welcome to another video. And in this one, I am on episode 3 of my 80s series where I go through every year of the 1980s and I name my top 5 favorite albums. So 1983 was a pretty good year. However, I must say this is the year where I don't own as many albums, so I'm pretty limited on what I have. Like I said in the past couple episodes, I'm only limited to what I have in my personal collection, so if I don't mention an album that you love from this year, it's either 1, I haven't heard it, 2, I don't own it, or 3, I didn't like it, so it's most likely going to be the first 2 reasons. So of course, if I don't mention an album that you love in this year, please drop it in the comments, and so you might introduce me to a new album. So without further ado, let's get right into the list. Kicking off with my number 5, this might be a weird one because there's really 2 sides. There's either the side that enjoys this album, and then there's some that don't enjoy this album. Of course, I lean more on the enjoyment side. So for my number 5, we have Black Sabbath, and here's their 1983 release, Born Again. You gotta love that album cover though. It's not the greatest, but it's eye-catching, I'll give it that. So this is kind of an oddity in their catalog since this is the only album to feature Ian Gillan on vocals. Of course, Ian Gillan from Deep Purple. So I always want to tell a story of how this album came about, so I'll try to make this quick. So basically, Ian Gillan was drinking with Tone Iommi, and I believe Geezer Butler was there as well. You know, they're at a pub, they're just drinking like good friends do. And then the next morning, Ian Gillan wakes up with a hangover, and then his manager calls him, and the manager was like, "Hey, congratulations to getting to Black Sabbath." And Ian was like, "Wait, what?" So what's even more awkward was that Ian was actually in another band. He was doing his solo band, the Gillan Band, and he basically had to ditch them in order to join Black Sabbath, and he never told those his bandmates. So yeah, that was the end of that era for Ian Gillan. But we ended up with this. So the 2 big complaints about this album is, 1, some people didn't think Ian Gillan was a good fit for Black Sabbath. Of course, I kind of disagree, because yeah, it's different. He's definitely a very different singer compared to like Ozzy and Dio, but I think it works well. I think he sounds good alongside Tony's guitar work, so I don't have an issue with that. And the second reason is the production, because I'll be honest, it's not the greatest sounding album, and even a lot of the members of the band, even they agree, like, yeah, we wanted it more polished, but I guess somebody messed up in the mixing process, and so they kind of ended up with what they got. Very muddy, it's very murky, not very clean, and there are times the guitar kind of peaks a little bit. But for some reason, that also doesn't bother me. I still think it's a very heavy album. And I think it also kind of adds to the whole atmosphere. It kind of has more of that dark, that gloomy or doomy, very heavy sound. And it kind of has this very different vibe that I'm not sure you can hear on other Black Sabbath albums. Maybe a couple with Ozzy, but this just definitely has something different about it. And that kind of what draws me to it. So of course, there's some great songs on here, like Trash is a great opening. Then you have a couple instrumentals like Stonehenge and The Dark, which, you know, they're just like atmospheric pieces. They're not meant to be listened to by themselves. But then you have Disturbing the Priest, and then of course you have Zero the Hero, Digital Bitch, then the Born Again. And Born Again is a great one. It's kind of an underrated one because Ian Gillan's just like pouring his soul into it. Like, I mean, there's a reason why I always loved Ian Gillan. Like, I just love his normal voice, but I love it when he belts it out with a scream or a yell. It's just absolutely incredible. Then you have Hotline and Keep It Warm. Just a great album. I enjoy it. I know some people don't, but I think this is a very underrated album in the catalog. So let's quickly go over what's inside, of course, like I do in the last couple episodes. So here, that's the back there. Then you have the disc itself, this kind of purple color. I wonder if that's a reference to Deep Purple there. Kind of a shame this lineup didn't last too long. They just did the album and the tour, and then Gillan went back to Deep Purple. So, yep, kind of a shame. So inside you have some pictures. There's the band there with Ian there on the far right. Some more photos. Some information plus a live shot. I do know about the tour, about they want a copy, like a sculpture of Stonehenge, but didn't really work out as referenced in Spinal Tap. So yeah, very cool album, very divisive, but for me, it's number 5 for my favorite albums of 1983. For number 4, here's an album that kind of relates to Black Sabbath, because by this point, this singer left Black Sabbath, and that's why Ian Gillan joined, but getting back on track, the previous singer left and formed his own solo band, and that of course is Dio, aka Ronnie James Dio, with his, I think this is the first album, so we have Holy Diver. Great hard rock / heavy metal album. I mean, Ronnie James Dio, like I've said before, fabulous singer. Always loved his tone. It's just so unique, but you just know it's him the second you hear him. Just this very loud, this very gruff, but also very badass voice. And he was a short guy, so it's even more incredible that a little guy can have a huge voice. So yeah, very interesting album cover. You know, I guess it's the demon trying to go after this guy, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure, honestly. But yeah, talking about the songs, of course you have Stand Up and Shout. Of course the title track is a classic. Gypsy, Caught in the Middle. I think that's a very underrated song on this album. That's like the chorus in that one. Don't Talk to Strangers has this slow kind of intro, and then it just goes bam right into it. Awesome. Straight Through the Heart, and it has kind of the commercials, the other commercial single on here, which was Rainbow in the Dark, which has that keyboard intro, which sounds very cool. I enjoy it. And then you have Shame on the Night. Yeah, it's a great one. I mean, it wouldn't be great if it's not my top 5. Did I make sense there? I don't know. It's been a long weekend. So anyhow, let's look on the inside. So I took the booklet out already, but there's the disc. Pretty standard. Produced by Ronnie James Dio himself, if you didn't know that. So open it up. Not much to say so far. You just have some info here and some photos. I'm assuming that's probably was on either the inner sleeve. Again, I'm just guessing. I don't know. And then here you have the credits. And then more notes. Okay, and just so you see the whole artwork. So yeah, I didn't have much to say on this one, but you know, it's Ronnie James Dio. What more has not been said about Ronnie James Dio? So yeah, that's going to be my number 4. For number 3, this band makes its second appearance in this series, and of course it's Iron Maiden, and here is Peace of Mind. So the second one with Bruce Dickinson on vocals, but the first album to have Nico McBrain on drums. So this is his first album he appears in, and he makes a terrific intro with Where Eagles Dare, like a great opening track. So anyway, before I talk about more about the track listing, of course you have more of that great artwork with Eddie. I guess he's in the insane asylum. Of course, that's probably makes sense. But still, a very cool cover. Some people would say this is their best album. It's definitely up there for me. Of course, I have other favorites. So talking about the track listing, so I already talked about Where Eagles Dare. They have Revelations, which is great. Then they have Flight of Icarus, and of course Bruce Dickinson just has that soaring voice. Love it. Die With Your Boots On. Then you have probably the most well-known song on here, The Trooper, with that iconic riff. Very cool. Still Life, Quest for Fire, I enjoy. Sun and Steel, and To Tame a Land, which is a great closing track. So yeah, another one that's top to bottom, all killer, no filler for me. So let's open it up. And I love the disc. I both really like the disc, but kind of disturbed by it because it has a brain being served. So that's kind of interesting. You know, peace of mind. You know, there you go. Then on the insides, you have again Eddie in the British uniform. Of course, that's probably for the trooper. Then the booklet, of course, similar to the Number of the Beast one I showed in the previous episode. Again, always love these booklets. Again, so detailed. You have so many pictures inside, live shots, and just the band just doing a lot of dumb stuff. Steve Harris again. Then you have Dave Murray. It's always cool that they always give them their own little separate section. There's Bruce in the recording studio. And of course you have lyrics as well. There's Nico McBrain right there. More photos. There's Adrian Smith. Then you have the rest is just a bunch of more live photos. Then here's the band being served the mind. Almost done here. Then last page, you have the band spitting in your face. So yep, there you go. That is my number 3 for 1983. So let's move on to the next one. So far in this list, it's been a lot of metal, but let's take a small break from it and let's talk about The Police with their last album, Synchronicity. So yeah, so like I just said, it's the final album before they would break up, and this is definitely a good one to go out on. I mean, this album had so many hits on here. I mean, I can just name like quite a bit of them already. So you have Synchronicity, the title track, where you have both 1 and 2. Of course, Synchronicity 2 is the one that most people remember the most. Then you have, of course, Every Breath You Take, which again, probably the greatest stalker song ever written, if you want to phrase it like that at least. Then you have King of Pain, love King of Pain. Then after that, you have Wrapped Around Your Finger. I mean, just 1, 2, 3, 4 songs in a row are just like spectacular. But even some of the deep cuts are pretty good as well. Like Tea in the Sahara is a pretty good. Miss, let me see if I can say this right. Miss Gregdenko. So I think that's how you say it. That's pretty cool. Of course, it's when I ranked the Police catalog quite a bit ago actually, and I ranked this. I believe this was number 3 on my list. And the reason why it's not my favorite Police album, even though there's a lot of songs I love, there's one thing on this album that kind of ruins it, and that is Mother. Of course, if you've not heard Mother, I mean, I kind of would suggest you go check it out, because it's definitely interesting. It's not in the good way, in a good way. So that kind of brings this album down as a whole listening experience. But regardless, like the hits are spectacular, and the deep cuts, like I mentioned, are pretty cool. And another thing about this particular CD copy, it comes with an extra song, because apparently this particular song was only released in the cassette and CD copies. It was never on the vinyl original LP. And that song is Murder by Numbers. And I think it should have been in the final album, I think. I just think it would have been a much fitting closing song, I think. Because it's a really good song. Very underrated, I think. Alright, so let's go ahead. Let's look on the inside. So this is kind of like your little typical like digipack. You open it up. This is what you get. Then you have all the information on this side. Then you have the disc itself. Pretty plain. So now let's look at the booklet. Yeah, pretty plain as well. You just got the lyrics there. Yeah, more lyrics. And you have this photo of the band here. This thing trying to look tough. Yeah, pretty boring booklet. But regardless, it's still my number 2 for 1983. So let's go and move on. As always, before we get to number 1, let's show some honorable mentions. So for my number 1, this might cause some people to be mad at me because I ranked this over Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath, but I have to go with what I'm feeling. And for me, I feel that Pyromania by Def Leppard is my number 1 favorite album of 1983. It really comes down to just like just the history I have with Def Leppard, because I basically grew up listening to them because my mom was a huge fan back in the 80s. And of course, she remembers all the songs, and she saw them live. And so as I was growing up, she would always play Def Leppard. So a lot of these songs I know very well. I mean, this is probably my favorite Def Leppard album. It's just a great blend of the hard rock, but also some of the commercial stuff. But we all know after this album, they would go even bigger in terms of commercial success. But I think this is a good mixture of both that radio-friendly sound, but still have a little bit of edge to them. So many great songs, so many classics as well, like Photograph, which was the big hit. You also have Foolin', Rock of Ages. Then you have the other songs like Rock Rock Till You Drop. Stage Fright's a great underrated song. Too Late for Love, Coming Under Fire, Billy's Got a Gun, and yeah, there's again pretty much another all killer no filler. Of course, produced by Mutt Lange, famous hard rock producer, and also kind of a cool album cover. I'd say it's kind of iconic in a sense. And the back, there it is. Right, let's go ahead and see what's on the inside. Course, Mercury label right there. I mean, so many good riffs I should probably mention as well. And this is the last album where Rick Allen would still have both his arms. And you know, they sound great. Joe Elliott's pretty cool vocalist. Not the greatest vocalist in the world, but definitely fits them. So at least this one's more colorful than the Police one. There we go. There's the credits there. One more photo of the band. I believe this is also the first album with Phil Collen on second guitar. Not Phil Collins, Phil Collen. Drop the S. But yeah. Anyhow. And then on the back you just have this photo. I'm assuming it's just matches and cigarettes maybe. That's what I'm assuming. But yeah, there you go. That is my top 5 favorite albums of 1983. Again, in the comments, let me know some of your favorites of this year. You always look forward to seeing what you want to share. So I'll see you next time where we tackle 1984. That year I have a ton more albums in that particular year, so look forward to that. And I'll see you in the next video, so don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you then. Take care and goodbye for now.